Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm going to do some reviews of some books that I have read recently. The first book I want to talk about is Be Prepared by Vera Broskell. This is a graphic novel that I picked up because I'd seen on Sadie's channel, and it has some interesting artwork in terms of its colour palette. It all tends to be in these green tones, and I think this is partly because this book is set in the wilderness and it adds to that sort of feeling of being out in nature. Vera is written this in a biographical style. It's about a time where she went to Russian summer camp. She feels very out of place in her school where she lives. She feels different to the other children with her Russian heritage, and so she hears from a girl at their church who goes to a Russian summer camp every year, and she begs her mother for a chance to go and to hopefully sort of she wants to find a place to fit in. And this just documents her time at this summer camp, her thoughts and feelings, as she slowly realises that it's not always being around people like you that helps you to fit in. There are other things, and you know, it's a really good exploration of making friends and how to do that and how not to do that, and the type of person that you want to be. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really sweet, really interesting. I thought the idea behind it was lovely, and the documentation behind it was funny. There was funny parts, there was some really sad parts where you really felt for her and other people, and I really enjoyed it, and I gave this one 4 stars. Another book that I read recently with the lovely Mercedes from Mercy's Bookish Musings, we buddy read, was A Winter's Promise, and this is book 1 in the Mirror Visitors series by Christelle Dubois. And oh, I wanted to love this so much more than I did. I wasn't quite sure where this fits in terms of its, whether it's YA or middle grade, or there was some aspects of it that I felt were even past that. And we're never told who our main protagonist's age, which left us sort of feeling a little bit unsure. You know, the very start of the book we find out that she is having this sort of arranged marriage, and I myself felt slightly uncomfortable because I didn't know her age, and was she being married off really young? And you know, she was talking about sleeping with her husband and things like that, and there's talk of babies and giving an heir and those sort of things. So I just wasn't quite sure how I sat and felt with that, and I just felt like the first half of this really dragged. It took ages to get to anything that was sort of interesting and exciting, and I felt like we did this massive long stint of repetitive actions where the author was just hammering home points they were trying to make about certain characters. So in the start of the book, she's taken off to this new sort of place, this new world, so to speak, where it's very difficult, if not almost impossible, for her family to visit very easily, and it's very different to where she's grown up. Where she's grown up, she's like a historian, she works in a museum, she can touch objects and find out their history and find out all the way back to sort of where they came from, and knows lots of things when she touches them, and she can also travel through mirrors, so she has these special abilities. And she has been sort of married off or sent off with this man to marry who's not very nice to her. His family's a bit unusual, and I just felt like this did a thing that a lot of books do that I find really frustrating, when they hold things back and your main character is constantly asking the questions that you as a reader are asking, and is never getting an answer, and that they're sort of fobbed off a little bit all the time. And I feel like if I was that person, I wouldn't allow myself to be fobbed off so much, and I find that very frustrating, because I'm just like, give her a straight answer, tell her the answer to this question, and why are you letting them fob you off? I just found that very frustrating. Later on in the book, she's moved to a different setting, which is a bit more interesting. It's got a little bit more going for it. It felt like the pace was moving a little bit faster. The plot was coming together a bit more. I really, really dislike this plot line of this arranged marriage, where I get the feeling that the author is slowly starting to try and warm the two characters to each other when they really dislike each other and not interested in the marriage. And and it doesn't feel very, it doesn't fit at the moment, and it makes me feel a bit weird. I don't think I'm going to carry on with this unless I hear great things from somebody else that does for book 2. But yeah, it just didn't quite hit the mark for me, so I gave this one 3 stars. The next book that I picked up is Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert, and again this was one that left me slightly disappointed. When I started this, I thought, oh, it's okay, it's quite interesting. I'm always going into classics feeling nervous because I feel like I'm not intellectual enough to read them, and I know that's stupid because I've read classics, I've read all of Jane Austen, I've really enjoyed them, they're very easy to engage with, they're not as hard as you expect, but I think I still have in my head every time I go to pick up a classic that it's going to be, it require too much thought from me to sort of decipher what's going on. This reads very easily, and our main character in this is Mr. Bovary, and he is a bit of an idiot, really. He's come from sort of meagre or you know, middle ground background. His mum has pushed and pushed and pushed. He's ended up becoming a doctor after lots of false starts and moved to this small town where she's arranged for him to marry this old widow who's got a decent sort of amount of money, income each year. And he does his sort of doctorly rounds, and on these rounds he ends up falling or sort of becoming attracted to this woman. His wife dies and he then ends up marrying this young girl, and it's about their life together. She is bored, for want of a better word. She's bored of their life. She wants more excitement. The life that she is living with as Madame Bovary does not give her all the things that she wants. Yeah, I don't know, I just found it a bit boring, and the characters a little bit one-dimensional. I mean, it was lovely written, but it just didn't hit the mark for me. I didn't find many redeeming qualities in any of our characters, unfortunately. So it was okay, 3 stars, nothing special. The next book I read was another graphic novel, and that was Athena, the Story of a Goddess by Imogen and Isabel Greenberg. I really love Imogen and Isabel Greenberg's work, and I really loved the artwork in here, the look of the artwork, and I was really excited to read this and find out more about the story of Athena, and I did enjoy it. I did enjoy the artwork, I did enjoy the story. I ended up giving it 3 stars, and I think the main reason for that is that it definitely feels like it's aimed at a younger audience, and sometimes with graphic novels you can feel like they're quite universal and it doesn't matter how old you are, and they can sort of they can cover no matter what age you are, and I think this can to some degree, but I didn't feel like it added much to the story for me, and I felt like it was very much pictures and someone had written captions to it. I didn't have that same feeling I've had with their graphic novels before, where they've been I don't know, I've just felt like they're whole complete stories with this sort of beautiful language as well. I felt like this was very much picture. Athena and her sister, and that sort of left it feeling a little bit lacking for me. So I did really enjoy it, and I'm definitely keeping the book because it is beautiful, and I definitely think it's one that I would love to read to Matilda as she gets older, and maybe if she's interested in the story of Athena. But for me it was just a 3-star read because of those reasons. The next book I listened to on audio, and that was Sadie by Courtney Summers. I picked this up on audio because I'd heard someone say how good the audio recording was, and I wasn't disappointed. It's done, the story itself is split into sort of 2 parts, I suppose. It flits between a podcast that's being made about this missing girl, and then also the story of this girl told from her own perspective, and we are following our main character Sadie through the disappearance of her sister. Her sister has been found dead, And it's then following on what happens from there on and why she's disappeared and where she's gone, and we're following that journey with Sadie. And then in the interim pieces, we're following this podcast of this man who is tracking Sadie's last steps to try and find out what has happened, and he's sort of that little bit behind her in terms of where he is, you know, trying to catch up. He's that few weeks, I suppose, from what I can gather, behind her, and we're following on his exploration from an outsider's point of view of what has happened. I thought this was brilliantly done. It was done with lots of different voices. It was done as a podcast. There was sort of the music every time the podcast started on the audio, and I thought the narrators had got the audio narrators had got the voices really well, and I was really pleasantly surprised, and I really enjoyed listening to it. It was a joy to listen to, and sometimes I do find audiobooks lose my attention, and this one certainly didn't. The story itself I thought was engaging. It ends in a weird way with sort of you making up your mind about certain things, which sometimes in books can really bother me, but actually in this one it didn't. I didn't find it bothered me at all. Actually, I was quite happy to have that choice in my mind and use my own imagination as to how it ended. There's plenty of triggers in this book for things like child abuse and paedophilia and neglect and alcohol and drug abuse and prostitution and child prostitution. There's all sorts of things that are touched on in this, so obviously be aware of that if that is a trigger for you going into it. But I really enjoyed this and I gave it a really strong 4 stars. And then the final book I want to talk about today is this one, Wondersmith, which is book 2 in the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend. If you've watched my channel, you'll know that in February I read Nevermore and I loved it. It was a really strong 5 stars. I was really pleased because I do often struggle with middle grade, and I went into this one with high expectations and they were met. Yes, they were met. This is proving to be one of my new favourites, and not just in middle grade but in books in general. I just think it really helps capture your imagination. She's done a wonderful job of creating a world and a complex system of magic, and oh, I just love it. There's things like, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's things like maps where you could, like a living map that you can see everything that's happening, and there's alleyways which can end up turning you upside down, and then from the first book, which if you've read the first book you'll know, there's like this brolly rail where you use your umbrella to travel, and oh, it's just brilliant. I won't tell you anything about this because I don't want to spoil it, but in the first book our main character is Morrigan is born into the normal world and treated very cruelly, and is blamed for all sorts of things that have happened because of the day of her birth, and she is sort of set to be put to death for this. She is however rescued just before this is about to happen by Jupiter, who becomes her sort of patron, and he takes her to this place called Nevermore, where he owns a hotel which is phenomenal, and there's just so many interesting things at the hotel, and she is told that she can stay in Nevermore if she manages to become part of this wondrous society, and in order to do that she has to complete and pass and, you know, get top rankings in a number of different challenges, which all take place in the first book. This book is the follow-on from that, so I won't give you any spoilers. It's well worth the read and I loved it. So yeah, 5 stars. So really good books that I've been reading so far. Some really strong ones, some which aren't quite so strong and have disappointed a little bit, but I'm still pleased that I've read them. And oh, when you read a good book like this, I just think everything else doesn't matter so much, and now I'm gutted because it's going to be so much longer to wait for the next one, but it will be worth it. I know it will be worth it, and it's a great time of year to read this. It's got some really Christmassy vibes in there, and yeah, I just loved it. So 5 stars, and if you don't read anything else that I've recommended, read this one. Anyway, that's it from me, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.